People, need you to do me a favor. Stop apologizing for taking a break. I want you to stop apologizing for taking a break. TD Jake said something so powerful one time. He stated that even the world takes a break. Earth. Yep. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. And I was thinking to myself, if the world takes a break, who are we to rebel against nature? And I know there's this huge debate at times on whether self care is being too soft or whether teachers deserve as long as a break they do during spring or summer, whatever the case may be. I want you to stop apologizing for taking a break. You must allow your nervous system to breathe. It is super important. And I think the moment that people recognize that and believe that, powerful things will take place. Welcome to another episode of Conversations Unleashed. It is Michael Bonner here. I am so glad to be here with all of you. I appreciate you for following along with this podcast. To all the incredible listeners and fantastic supporters. I mean, from Don to Jonathan to my parents to Sean to so many of you. I just thank all of you for your support. We're going to have some fun today because we are entering into spring break at the Ron Clark Academy, and I'm really excited about this. We have the Global Amazing Shake that's coming up. So that's going to be the tail end of us going into the spring break era, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to allowing my nervous system to breathe and relax because oftentimes I think just as human beings, we don't recognize how much we pick up from everywhere. In psychology, there's this terminology called vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma is the trauma you pick up from hearing other people's stories. And I found out as an educator, right, that oftentimes when we're listening to the drama of our kids or families may be going through things, we're taking that in with us, right? And it's attaching itself to us figuratively. And what I've learned from me is on my spring breaks, I like to take the time to take that stuff off of me, to peel it off of me. And now that I think about it, check this out. If vicarious trauma is the trauma you pick up from other people and their stories, think about just not in your workplace, but digitally. Think about how many stories and things we see online that ultimately impact our day. So that's why I believe taking a break is important. I believe in resting is important. And I'm looking forward to this point because it is a perfect time for me during spring break where I have no obligation to anything. I get a chance to take a break from teaching, speaking, working. I get a break. I get a real break. And I get a chance to recharge because we finish out Q4 and then summertime comes. And then I'm on a roll to try to deliver an incredible new speech I've been designing. But speaking of spring break, the orange cover is mostly dealing with topics inside of the classroom. And I want to tell you this. I have found out that when I was thinking about my students in sixth grade, and we've been pushing for growth, and I can tell they were getting a little tired with their stamina. Um, I have kept my expectations the same, but I have shifted the celebration. Sometimes in life, you have to continually have high expectations, right? Because you believe in that person. I'm talking directly about the classroom, not relationally. But sometimes you also have to shift the celebration. I think group celebrations inside of a classroom has its place and can be a very powerful thing. But I have found out that, particularly inside of middle school, when kids are going through different developmental stages, having a group celebration in regards to them earning something sometimes isn't the best goal because kids are going through different things and they're trying to learn how to find their own intrinsic value that will push them to go after and accomplish their own goal. So here's an example of that. For my sixth grade crew, I told them that if the entire class hits all green, which has never been done in already, right? Then what will ultimately happen is this. Those students will therefore, I will take them to a dinner at the top of Pont City Market. just something fun, right? Something cool, or just host this beautiful moment in our classroom. They're foodies, they're big backs like their teachers, so any type of food they would love. And over time, as I've been tracking their data since after Christmas break and I made that deal, I have recognized that some students are taking it seriously. They're working with their eye ready, they're annotating their notes. And there's some kids that aren't even doing the basic minimum that will help them grow in the long term. And the issue with that is that will ultimately hurt the group as a whole. All right. So I had to shift it and adjust the goals based by numerical growth. So I told some of the kids, based upon their score in the mid-year diagnostic, that if you get a certain amount of points, then you will have access to the celebration. Over spring break, I'm going to rethink that number. I'm going to rethink that data point. And after spring break, I'll have the opportunity to make sure that I come even more recharged and prepared to push them over the finish line. That means sending letters out to parents about the current progress of their kids. That means buckling down on everyday things that we know works inside of reading. And I think that's going to give us an advantage. So I want you to think about that on your breaks. I want you to think about what things you need to adjust going into Q4 so that the end of the year can end out well. Because if we're honest, the end of the if we're honest, the end of the school year oftentimes is tough for educators because you're just trying to keep the kids in line, right? And it doesn't help that Q4 is the hardest part of the year, but that's also when they get their final assessment to see how they stand, not just amongst their peers, but amongst other kids inside the United States of America and the world. And speaking of that, if you did not know, I've been a big component in just advocating about artificial intelligence and how it's changing and shifting. I want you to pay attention to what the First Lady of the United States stated yesterday. Check this out.
Imagine a humanoid educator named Plato. Access to the classical studies is now instantaneous. Literature, science, art, philosophy, mathematics, and history. Humanity's entire corpus of information is available in the comfort of your home.
A lot of people, after she stated this, began this unique outrage on social media about how, after this statement, people were basically saying that how dare we replace educators and teachers are so important. And I'm going to tell you this, I don't have time for the fake outrage. We've talked about this over time. Technology, the advancement of technology, oftentimes eliminates jobs that may be, for the lack of better terms, stale, jobs that need to be refreshed. And this probably wouldn't even be taking place, everybody, if educators were not only just properly paid, but more importantly, properly funded to do the jobs that they need to do. Did you know last year alone, 6 to 12 billion dollars was cut away from the education system? Okay. When you take away that amount of capital, you take away training for teachers, you take away proper food, proper resources, proper technology for kids, that's going to have a trickle down effect. And I don't want people to get online and go crazy saying, I don't want a AI robot to teach my kid. Well, that's ultimately where we're heading if funding doesn't come back, if we don't train teachers properly, if we do not have a strong enough change and shift in regards to our stance towards education, and more importantly, a systematic approach to improve the lives of our kids through education. One thing I need you to consider is that the United States of America is a capitalistic society. You must begin to follow the money to figure out what kind of changes are being made. Now, if they cut 6 to 12 billion from education last year, you must ask yourself, where is that money going? I will let you do your own research with that. I just want you to be aware not to participate in the fake outrage. If people truly value teachers and you do not want AI to take over teacher jobs, which is already happening in other countries, which is already being developed in schools here in the United States of America, you need to pay teachers more. You need to improve the livelihood of students, schools. with proper tools for the school counselors and social emotional development. You need to improve the technology because, Lord have mercy, those Chromebooks need some help. Let's not participate in the world and the bots of what people are saying online. Let's really make some real systematic change happen. And that's just my 2 cents. You guys know I love you. You know I appreciate you. Maybe over spring break I may drop an episode, maybe not, right? But in the meantime, you take care of yourself, and I plan on doing the same. I plan on resting, and I want you all to know every time I step on this podcast and my stage, my media platform, I love you. I appreciate you. If no one sees you, I see you. And maybe I say these things, everyone, because that's what I need to hear sometimes. And I know how blessed I am to be in the position I'm in. And I know others that may be struggling in life may need to hear the same thing. I hope you are surrounded by love. I hope you are in the highest state of peace possible. I hope that if you're going through a storm, that it will begin to subside. And if it doesn't end, I pray that you get the strength to keep pushing so you can learn and do what needs to be done in order to become a better version of yourself. I hope and pray that the 2026 will be one of the most prosperous years of your life. And everything that I spoke to you, I hope the same for myself. God bless you. I love you. And never forget, legacy over likes. Take care of yourself, people. Peace.